Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for June 20th through 26th. This week I read 3 books, I watched 4 shows, and I listened to 1 book. We are currently experiencing a heat wave, which is why I look like this. It is 7 o'clock in the morning and it's already too hot to film, but here we are. The first book I finished this week was for the 48-hour Queer Blackathon, and that was The Gospel of Breaking by Jillian Christmas. This is a poetry collection, and I think we all know by this point that I don't have the most intelligent things to say about poetry, which I feel like is what I say every time I talk about poetry. However, there were a lot of very impactful poems in here, and there were also a couple of poems that caught me off guard because they were seemingly off topic of what the previous poems had talked about, and I really enjoyed them. For example, there was definitely one called the Bike poem that I had to read out loud to all of my roommates because it was so good. I also had to send it to a friend of mine who has definitely had bikes stolen in Victoria because it was about bike theft, which is rampant here for some reason. And it was nice to see a poem with what I felt was a complete tonal shift to a lot of the other poems in the collection. I also realized after I finished that the author is actually Canadian and has spent some time in the slam poetry scene in Vancouver, which is very close to me, so that was good to know. The other book that I read for the Queer Blackathon, although I did not finish it within the 48 hours, is Real Life by Brandon Taylor. This book follows a postgraduate student during a weekend during the summer right before I believe what is meant to be his final year. Through this weekend we really get to see his friends and also what has happened in his past to make him who he is, and this overwhelming sense of them being so close to quote-unquote real life. Some of them have partners that are not part of the lab scene, and they're constantly talking about how it's going to be different once they get into real life and real adult responsibilities and all those types of things, and that notion is constantly challenged throughout this in several different ways, which I really enjoyed. This book is a difficult read at times, so content warnings for sexual assault, mention of child abuse from his past, many other things that I probably can't remember right now because my brain doesn't work because it's too hot. Additionally, he faces several microaggressions this weekend, to the point where there's actually another student at the lab who uses the N-word and also calls him a derogatory word for people who are queer, and then has the audacity to tell their supervisor that he is a misogynist. So there is a whole lot to unpack in this book. It was a very impactful read. It is difficult to read though, because you're going to want to punch some characters. And obviously that's not how we solve problems, so conflict. The last book that I read this week was Last Night in Nuuk. This one is set in Greenland and actually translated from Greenlandic. It was also only a few days ago that I found out that Greenland is not a country, so fun fact. It is an autonomous territory of Denmark. Last Night in Nuuk centers 5 characters, and we get approximately the same time frame from each of their different perspectives. Many of these characters are queer, so we get that perspective of Greenlandic culture, but then also there are several conflicts, and I feel like telling you about any one's specific conflicts could be spoilers for the other person's sections. It's also interesting to note that this is written in such a way that some people are going to like it and some people are going to not like it. Possibly because in the first section we get a lot of run-on sentences, but I completely understand stylistically why it happened. There's this whole part of the first section where the first character is very conflicted about her boyfriend, and it's basically just her run-on monologue of trying to survive these situations and looking down upon herself because she's got this sense that he's a perfect gentleman and he's a nice guy, and anything that she does that is not reciprocal or nice back is bad. And although I could see it being very overwhelming and not the style that people are used to reading, I felt it was done really, really well. On to what I watched this week. We continued watching Bones from the first season, so it's still very, very weird to see all of these characters so young and their voices being so different, but it's a good time overall. It's also just really weird that there was a time before Cam was on the show and a time before Brennan had several interns. We also started watching the 5th season of Expanse because we previously, during this global panorama, watched the first 4 seasons, and I remember really enjoying them and really understanding what was going on at all times. And even though we watched a recap before starting the 5th season, I am still occasionally lost because there are many, many characters. A lot of characters speak in dialects, which makes a lot of sense for their characters, but also makes it harder to follow what's going on sometimes. And all of the main characters are kind of spread out and doing their own thing, and we were hoping that it would be a getting the band back together situation because that's a very enjoyable trope, but so far that hasn't happened, and I think we're almost halfway through the season, so Who knows? Since I've never seen it before and my roommate would like to rewatch it, we also watched the first 2 episodes of Sex and the City. I have a feeling that I'm gonna have problems with a lot of the things that happen in this show and just the way that things are reflected on. For example, one of the articles Carrie was writing, I think in the very first episode, was about women who have sex like men, as in they have sex with no feelings. And I'm just sitting here thinking, we've progressed so far in society when it comes to these things, or at least some people have. And then I think about the fact that there are many people out there that could watch this and not question it whatsoever. So it's gonna be a time, I think. However, I was very excited to see drag queens in the very first episode, which brings us to RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 6. It started. I've watched the first 2 episodes. I'm very excited about it. And I'm also very excited that the tagline has been changed to "and let the best drag queen win," because there are trans girls on the show. All Stars is always fun because you've at least seen all of these faces before, even if you don't super remember them because you've seen so many drag queens on the show before. So reintroducing yourself to these queens is a lot of fun, and then obviously you know that they're good because they've done the show before, so the caliber of the show in general is pretty high, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. The book I listened to this week is An Emotion of Great Delight. This one is not as delightful as the title would suggest. And I say that in the "you're going to have emotions" way, not in the "it wasn't beautifully written," because it definitely was. This takes place 1 and 2 years post 9/11, and our main character is a young Muslim girl going to high school like any other American teenager. And not only is she facing Islamophobia, but she's also facing a friend breakup with her best friend, and you kind of figure out why that happened. But then she's no longer talking to her best friend's brother, who she also had a really close relationship to. In addition to the fact that her father is in the hospital, and she has some very complicated feelings about him because she blames her brother's death on him. Her mother is also going through a terrible mental health time, and her older sister is trying to arrange a marriage, so a lot is going on right now. Like I said before, this book is beautifully written. It is going to have all of the emotions, and I highly suggest reading it. And because I can feel the sweat physically building up on my face right now, I'm going to end it there. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment, but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!